Greetings and salutations, Internet. My name is Kind Death, and today's question is the Horde evil? The answer is yes, the Horde is evil. But only under Sylvanas Windrunner. You see, what I did there is what is known as a dramatic pause. It allows the viewer or reader to fill a vacancy with their own ideas, beliefs, values, and conjecture. It is commonly used in suspense, horror, drama, comedy. It's the classic cliffhanger. It's the end of the chapter. Or as Mark Twain once said, the right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a rightly timed pause. That is exactly what Warbringers Sylvanas was. A rightly timed pause. Your outrage was orchestrated and designed by Blizzard. You were supposed to be outraged, both for Horde and Alliance players. Blizzard's goal was one thing: to make you feel. For those saying that this is bad writing, consider the fact that Sylvanas sent the druids of the Horde and Bane to Silithus before this happened. This was well thought out. Remember, this isn't your story. You get to have an opinion, but you do not get to dictate where it heads. Enjoy the ride, or get off. Try not to judge an entire book after only reading the first 2 chapters. This move was exceptionally bold. It's risking the wrath of the player base to move the narrative forward. Which is funny because a lot of times the players of World of Warcraft have complained about how there's kind of a contrived Horde and Alliance faction conflict because no one side can really get a leg up on the other side. We never believed that they would be willing to make one faction good and one faction bad, even if for only a moment in time. That is why it's brilliant, and that is why I'm excited about the lore for Battle for Azeroth. Keep in mind that Sylvanas achieved her goals with Teldrassil. We don't know if she will be deposed from the Horde. We don't know that she doesn't win the war with the Alliance. Perhaps she does lead the Horde to victory over the Alliance. The question would then be, was it worth the cost? Does the Horde lose its soul in the process with the lack of honor? Or is winning all that matters? There is one thing that we have known about Sylvanas, though, before the burning of Teldrassil, and that's that Sylvanas is evil. There is no debating that fact. She has been a black and white character from the beginning, even though her quest against Arthas might have been righteous. We do know, however, that she does have strong feelings. Those who are saying her character has been ruined clearly haven't been following her story arc. While Sylvanas is ruthless, cunning, calculating, cold, and likely the greatest military tactician on Azeroth, Sylvanas is also consumed by her emotions, her rage, spite, loathing, jealousy, those stains on her cheek, tears, the fate that awaits her in the eternal void, worse than death. But the funny thing about all of this is she was like this even while she was still alive. Let me read you an excerpt from Sylvanas Windrunner, Edge of Night. Another memory flooded her senses. Now she crouched behind an outcropping of smooth stone in Eversong Woods. The autumn foliage rustled above her, masking the sounds of her companion's footsteps as he dashed forward and then fell into hiding beside her. "There are so many," he barked, falling silent as she raised a finger. "We only have 24 rangers up there," he said, his voice now a whisper. "They cannot survive that." Sylvanas didn't turn her gaze away from the dark mass of shambling corpses crushing its way closer to the river. It was the height of the Third War and hours from Silvermoon's fall at the hands of Arthas' army. "They merely need to delay them, as we fortify the Sunwell's defense," she answered, her tone measured. "They will die." "They are arrows in the quiver," Sylvanas said. "They must be spent if we are to win this." Sylvanas is using her high elf kin as cannon fodder just to slow down the undead throngs of the Scourge. That is not something a good person would do. or a nice person. Later on in the story, she also says this: "They had come far from their decimated origins. The yearning, confused mob of fresh corpses huddled about the ruins of Lordaeron's wrecked capital. The Forsaken were truly a nation now, a fetid, gore-caked, hideous mass of lifeless husks, skilled in combat, devastating with the arcane arts, and unhindered by fetters of morality. They had been honed into the perfect weapon. Her weapon. And they had struck the killing blow for which she had built them. She cared nothing for their fate. 'Let them perish,' Sylvanas cried. 'I am finished with them.' So even the people she gave undeath and freedom to are mere pawns for her to end the Lich King. They are means to an end. She even kills her own people in Erithai, who are returning to the Forsaken lines in Before the Storm. She threatens to resurrect Saurfang's corpse to serve her in death if he dies at the Battle of Undercity. We also see her emotion affect her judgment in the Three Sisters comic. When Varisa turns to apologize to Sylvanas, all of Sylvanas' plans go out the window. She doesn't order her Dark Rangers to kill her sisters as planned. She is caught off guard emotionally. The same happens when Delaran Summermoon says, "I grieve for you." Sylvanas' face immediately contorts from pleasure to anger. After the atrocities Sylvanas just committed, this is the last response she expects or wants to hear from a night elf on her deathbed. Empathy for Sylvanas herself. She realizes that her goal still hasn't been achieved. Sylvanas lashes out angrily, but controlled. She had miscalculated the Night Elf's resolve. She is not Garrosh 2.0. What this does is it gives her character depth instead of being an empty husk of vengeance. When you first started a Forsaken character in Classic WoW at the character creation, they explicitly state their goals are their own. They owe allegiance to nobody. Their goal is to create a plague of undeath that is to kill all of the living, including the Horde itself.
Bound to the iron will of the tyrant Lich King, the vast undead armies of the Scourge seek to eradicate all life on Azeroth. Led by the Banshee Sylvanas Windrunner, a group of renegades broke away from the Scourge and freed themselves of the Lich King's domination. Known by some as the Forsaken, this group fights a constant battle, not only to retain its freedom from the Scourge, but also to slaughter those who would hunt them as monsters. With Sylvanas as their Banshee Queen, the Forsaken have built a dark stronghold beneath the ruins of Lordaeron's former capital city. This hidden Undercity forms a sprawling labyrinth that stretches beneath the haunted woods of the Tirisfal Glades. Though the very land is cursed, the zealous humans of the Scarlet Crusade still cling to their scattered holdings, obsessed with eradicating the undead and retaking their homeland. Convinced that the primitive races of the Horde can help them achieve victory over their enemies, the Forsaken have entered an alliance of convenience. Harboring no true loyalty for their new allies, they will go to any lengths to ensure their dark plans come to fruition. As one of the Forsaken, you must massacre any who pose a threat to the New Order, human, undead, or otherwise.
Sylvanas' Horde is that New Order. Black and white characters can be interesting. Not all interesting characters are morally gray. Their internal strife can be the journey. Look to Lord of the Rings for reference. From Frodo, to Aragorn, to Sauron. There were many good versus evil themes in Lord of the Rings. Not every interesting character has to be written in the vein of Game of Thrones. Sylvanas' Horde, the new Horde, is a dark Horde. What is the true Horde? The quote-unquote true Horde is Thrall's Horde, noble savages fighting just for the right to exist. But it's important to note that the quote-unquote true Horde only existed in Warcraft lore from Warcraft 3 until the end of Wrath of the Lich King. In Warcraft 1 and 2, the Horde was evil. The story was black and white. Although Ian Hazzikostas says otherwise, he must not know that lore. Now, from Cataclysm forward, we see the atrocities through Cataclysm and Mist of Pandaria at the hands of Garrosh Hellscream. There was a little blip in there where we had Vol'jin as war chief during Warlords of Draenor, but we were an alternate universe Draenor, so I don't even know what really counts and doesn't there. And then we have Sylvanas for Legion. The majority of the Horde history has been full of dark characters, atrocities, and bad things, which is a stark contrast to the Alliance's history. The path of glory is paved from the genocide of the Draenei with their bones. For those joining the No Honor, No Pauldrons hashtag movement, remember Varric Saurfang drank Manaroth's blood, slayed Draenei women and children, and he's now considered a morally gray character, yet he's done some really horrific things. I don't know if I can say that's true for any particular Alliance character currently in the game. The Black Morass was turned into the Blasted Lands due to the Horde. Stormwind was leveled. Lordaeron and Silvermoon were sieged. The Horde destroyed Draenor in an attempt to flee the Alliance expeditionary forces, turning it into Outland. They then again drank the blood of Manaroth, only to have to cleanse themselves of the corruption again in Warcraft 3 through Grom Hellscream's sacrifice. It's important to note that the Horde only stood up to Garrosh's tyranny once he started attacking non-orcs within the Horde. Few questioned him within the Horde when he used the Warcraft equivalent of nuclear weapons, the Mana Bomb, on the Alliance city of Theramore. Biological weapons have also been used under the Horde banner, such as against the neutral Gilneans, who they besieged and used the plague on. It was used at the Wrathgate by Putris, although he broke away from the Horde and was planning a coup on Sylvanas. Had Sylvanas not ordered the construction of such a plague, he wouldn't have been able to use it. And now we see that Sylvanas is yet again ready to use the plague at Undercity, where she kills not only Alliance forces with it, but Horde forces as well, and then resurrects all of them. That's not even counting the genocide of what happened with the Night Elves on Teldrassil. There is no Alliance equivalent to these dark actions in the Alliance's name. Whether you agree with what the Horde has done is irrelevant. You participated as a Horde player in the actions that led up to some of these events, like Saurfang did. You were a party to the crime. Your hands are dirty too. You may not have fired the catapults, but you helped Sylvanas get them into range and load them. You must find your path back to honor and redemption. Thrall's Horde is effectively dead, and I think a lot of Horde players have failed to recognize that. Horde players, if you want to have that true Horde, that Thrall's Horde back, you're going to have to redefine the Horde as it currently is. What makes the Horde so interesting from a story level is the fact that there are factions of factions within the faction of the Horde. Undead are kind of their own thing. The Goblins kind of do their own thing too. There's some more unified races such as the Trolls, the Tauren, and the Orcs. But the Horde is kind of this motley throng and crew that comes together to survive. That's not true of the Alliance. And that's kind of why it's harder from a story perspective to really tinker with what the Alliance is. Blizzard is questioning not only what the Horde is conceptually, but what the Alliance is as well. Alliance unity is their shared values. Horde unity is survival. If the Alliance were to commit these types of acts that the Horde has, it would shatter the faction, which is exactly what I think is going to happen in Battle for Azeroth. So where do we go from here? I'm almost certain that the Alliance will get a cinematic that is the equivalent of Old Soldier, but with a twist. Whereas Old Soldier shows that there is still honor to be found within the Horde, showing the Horde's good side, I believe the Alliance cinematic will show its dark side. That could come in the form of zealous xenophobes being welcomed into their ranks, such as the Scarlet Crusade, or Jaina Proudmoore arriving as the Alliance army is pushed back by the plague and slaughtering all Horde in her path indiscriminately. Or maybe, tinfoil hat, the Azjaras cinematic ties into joining the Alliance with the Naga. Maybe she's enlisted by Jaina to pilot her ship that she just pulled out of the sea. She summons them from the depths, like Illidan did before her, and that's where her Warbringer story and the Naga connect into the narrative. Probably not, but it's fun to speculate. The thing that would really excite me, however, is maybe we're seeing a realigning of the factions to make way for Warcraft 4. Let me know your theories, and or what you think of mine in the comments below. Click the bell if you want to see any of my future videos that are uploaded. And remember, my name has been Kind Death. Have a good day.